So coming back at you with another video. Today, I'm back. I'm excited. I'm pumped up. Hopefully everyone's doing well. Practicing self-care, not letting one thought, one situation, one person take them outside of what they know to be true, and continuing to become the best possible version of yourself and striving and driving to become everything that you possibly can be, and not letting anything influence you that is not going to help you get to that next level. And I know at least 50 people did just that, because that's how many people went in the exam, kicked it directly in the chest, and got the job done. And it's always amazing for me because a lot of people on this list were doubting themselves, not wanting to take the exam, doubting whether they should even be a social worker, or letting all these different things that people tell them to do control their minds. But all they had to do was double down, do the next right thing, go on the exam, becoming them, trusting themselves, not adding, not taking away, not second guessing, not doing anything, but becoming the best possible version of themselves and going to the exam, kicking it directly in the chest to get the job done. And the 50 people that have passed since my last video are as follows: BGS, Chris N, Tanisha C, Jessica H, Nicola W, Lily F, Sarah K, Alexandria G, Rebecca D, Lady C, Chris A, Tracy J, Morgan W, Keller C, LaShonda T, Bianca C, Andreas R, Samantha P, Adam C, Julie F, Mariah O.N., Francesca W., Leah B., Meredith B., Kaylin R., Julia C., Tracy L., Cheryl R., Itzel D., Catherine T., Alicia W., Aisha S., Tatiana L., Miranda S., Erica H., Melissa W., Ardina G., Jody L., Blisk A., Sarah B., Diana C., Sarah O., Gingy L., Lenny R., Frida S., Jana P., Emily D., Katie B., Kaylee P., and Laura L. And I'm so excited, man, because like I said, a lot of people on that list was like, man, I'm not even sure if I could do it. And I received an email from somebody that was like, man, Phil, I've been really struggling with motivating myself to get in the exam. I've been really doubting myself, beating myself up. But once I started rapping around with your videos and all of your things, I started to feel a lot better about myself. And I had no doubts. I had no doubts that I was going to go in the exam, kick it directly in the chest to get the job done. And I'm going to put a photo up of what it was like for them to go in the exam. And if you notice, I have the shirt on that says LCSW, because they said I had no doubt in my mind that I was going to go in the exam, get the job done, and not let one thought, one situation, or anything take me outside of what I know to be true. And that's why I always say it's important for you to do the next right thing for yourself. And then I did ask the person if I could include that, so don't worry about any of that. But it's just amazing for me for when somebody starts out, they're like doubting themselves, beating themselves up, and doing all these different things that they normally wouldn't do. But once they start doubling down, doing everything that they possibly can for themselves, they start getting that confidence and stride behind themselves. So if you're in that struggle point or not sure where you should turn or how you should do it, my first recommendation would be to assess where you're at and what is needed. And if you're like, man, Phil, I want to rep and rock with you as well, the easiest way to do that are my Sunday study groups. The next Sunday study groups that are coming up, the paid study groups, they're from 7 p.m. Eastern time until they kick us out. They can't kick us out. I'm the host, and those lengths of time vary. I would typically say that they're 4, 5, 6 hours, sometimes longer. And the next Sunday study groups that are coming up are 219, acronym and practice questions. So going over the acronym: safety, feelings, assess, refer, educate, advocate, facilitate, and intervene. Not trying to memorize it, not trying to word associate, but actually understanding what does the acronym mean, how can you apply it, when are situations that you're not supposed to apply it, and the tips that I find most helpful for people to keep in mind as they're preparing for the exam, and then as they're inside of the exam, to go in the exam, kick it directly on the chest to get the job done. The 6-step process that I recommend every single person to keep in mind as they are breaking down questions, and then going through practice questions. And again, I always say, do not come into the session expecting to get every single practice question correct, because the goal of these practice questions is to ensure that you go through difficult situations outside of the exam, so that way when you're inside of the exam, you're not like, oh my goodness, I've never seen anything this tough before. Because a lot of times people will come into my sessions, get more questions wrong than they wanted to, and they're like, should I reschedule? Am I ready? And again, it's not any question or any practice exam that's going to determine whether you're ready or not. It's the strategies, techniques, and the ways that you respond to those strategies and techniques, and how you're getting to the answer, not just seeing if you're getting right or wrong. So if you're looking for a session that's really trying to teach you and push you and mold you to become the best possible version of yourself, that session is a very good session and tends to be super duper long. And if you're coming in the session expecting me to hop just right into practice questions, like I said, I'm going to be going over the acronym. I'm going to be giving some motivation and tips, and then at the tail end there's practice questions, because sometimes people come to the session and say, man, just get to the practice questions. But there has to be a means behind the madness of why we're doing it. The next one after that is 226, DSM-5 adults. So going over the personality disorders, the schizophrenia spectrum, bipolar 1 versus bipolar 2 disorders, the medications, and then going through practice questions related to those. And these sessions are not ways to memorize anything, but ways to be able to recognize and apply the information to go in the exam, kick it directly on the chest, get the job done. And the next one after that is 3.5, research, program development, and program evaluation. So the stages of research, the steps of research, the different types of research, the different lengths of time, the different variables that you can see, the different research things that can be related to that, the stages of program development, and then stripping it back with program evaluation and identifying the steps of program evaluation, the types of program evaluation, and then going through practice questions related to those. And again, these sessions are not for you to memorize anything, but being able to recognize and apply it. Because a lot of times when people are studying, they're trying to become a robot or trying to become a computer, which is oftentimes not what the exam is asking you to do, because when you're in that position, you're going to be looking for answers in the way that you think that they should be presented to you, but the exam is not trying to have you do that. Just like the same way in real practice, you may have the information, but you have to be able to apply it with your clients. And again, live attendance to these sessions are not 100% required, because when you register, it adds your name to the email list. So if you're not able to stay the entire time or not able to attend the sessions at all, when you register for the session, you'll receive the recording as well as the materials to review at your own leisure. If you want any information related to those, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, or click the link down below in the description, which is the view more under the title. I'll send you to my calendar, and you'll be able to register for all the sessions that you would like to, as well as I do still offer individual tutoring sessions. So if you want to directly interact with me and rep and rock with me, either going through content or breaking down practice questions, or simply talking through your process and being able to develop a better process, it's 100% possible to be able to do so. My schedule tends to book out 2 to 3 to 4 weeks in advance, so just please plan accordingly, because it pains me to have to turn people away and not be able to assist as many people that want to be assisted. So if your exam is prior to my availability, you can send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, and I'll add you to the tutoring waiting list and notify you if anyone cancels, as well as the next one-day course is going to be on March 18th from 11 a.m. until they kick us out. They can't kick us out. I'm the host. This session is the most helpful thing that you can possibly do, because it packs the most amount of information as well as the most difficult practice questions that I can muster up. So if you're doubting yourself, you're unsure whether you're ready or not for the exam, or you're just kind of confused on how you need to be preparing or where to turn, the one-day course is the most helpful resource that I possibly have. And like I said, the next one is on March 18th, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern time until they kick us out. And that's just kind of a guess, because the one-day courses typically are 12, 13, sometimes 14 hours long, depending on what goes on, as well as that session is going to be recorded, so you don't have to attend the entire session or attend the session at all, because when you register, add your name to the email list for you to get the materials and review it at your own leisure. And the one-day course goes over the tips that I found most helpful for people to keep in mind to go in the exam, kick it directly on the chest to get the job done. Most common reasons why people fail the exam, but because what better way to be able to do things in a better manner than learning from what people have done in the past and that have not been as helpful, going through different concepts or topics that you can possibly see on the exam: subpoena versus court order, referral versus supervision, operant conditioning, these stages of community organizing, the personality disorders, the schizophrenia spectrum, bipolar 1 versus bipolar 2 disorders, the medications, the acronym, and the 6-step process that I recommend every single person to keep in mind and utilize to break down every single question, and then going through practice questions. So if you want any information related to that, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, or click the link down below in the description. But if your exam is prior to that, it's 100% possible to access a previously recorded version of my one-day course. So if you want information about that, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. Hope to see you guys in individual tutoring, Sunday study groups, or the one-day course, or at any capacity, because it's my pleasure to be able to help in any way that I possibly can. As well as, for those that do not know, Audible's continue to partner with me on my YouTube videos and my podcast. So if you want to support me as well as support them, go to my Audible affiliate link at www.audibletrial.com/fill-in-the-gaps. Sign up for the 30-day free trial. It gets you a free book, and it's the easiest way to be able to support me and cost you absolutely nothing. And from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate every single person that has repped and rocked with me and supported me in any way that they possibly can, because Audible is an easy way to get information on the go. So if you're busy just like me, or you learn based on hearing, or you just can't really sit down and pet the pages of a book, Audible is an easy way for you to be able to get information on the go. So again, if you want to support me as well as support them, go to my Audible affiliate link at www.audibletrial.com/fill-in-the-gaps, or click the link down below in the description. Click it, sign up for the 30-day free trial, get yourself a free book. And there are a couple of books that I would recommend: The Alchemist, UOU, Outliers, as well as traumatized, because each of them are going to give you lessons and blessings that can help you progress professionally as well as personally, become the best possible version of themselves. As well as, if you haven't already, hit the like button down below, thumbs up button. It helps other amazing social workers just like you find my videos as well. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below, hit the bell notification next to it, because it will notify you every single time that I upload a video just like this, as well as the next free study groups that come up, because a lot of times people are like, I missed it. So that's the easiest way to be able to do that, as well as drop a comment down below with something positive or something that you're going through, because I read every single comment, and I'll try my best to reply to every single comment, because I want you guys to feel a part of the Fill in the Gaps community, and I will try my absolute best to do everything that I possibly can. As well as, if you haven't already, check out my podcast at Fill in the Gaps on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher, and Spotify. I'm going to be uploading more podcasts in the future once I get a little bit more time. And like I always say, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate every single one of you guys that has been repping and rocking with me. And a couple of thoughts that I've been having on my mind and what this video is going to be about is the 5 reasons why people typically doubt themselves. And again, it's not going to be the only 5 reasons, but it's going to be the 5 most common reasons. And why I'm saying this is because a lot more people that I'm talking to are starting to doubt themselves, beat themselves up, compare themselves to other people, but more importantly, trying to compare themselves to where they thought they would be. And like I said, anytime that I'm talking to somebody, I'm not really trying to like analyze and do all these different things. I'm trying to understand where they're specifically at, but there are common themes among people and among social workers in particular. And for those that know, like recently I was in the hospital, and through anything that I go through, I try to think about what are the positives or what are the lessons within that. And again, I'm doing better now, but that's why you didn't see me upload videos and all of these things, is because I was there and it was focusing on my health and all those things. But as I was there, I'm like, man, what is this? And again, I'm like the worst person to seek out help. Not because I don't think it's important, but because I like try to be like a self-reliant and not depend on other people. But why I'm sharing this is because that can breed doubt in you. Because if you've been so self-reliant or so independent in your situation, it could be difficult for you to think that you need assistance or think that you need to rely on other people, or that you can rely on other people. And throughout that situation, I just kind of had to submit to it and say, you know what, it's not the best situation, but you're still alive. Like, it's not the best situation, and it's not what you want to have happen. Because throughout that process, I had to cancel the last one-day course, the Sunday study group, and it was tough for me because, again, I'm somebody that, like, man, my name and what I do, it means a lot. So for me to do that, I was like, oh my God, what are people going to think about me? Or man, what's going to happen and all these things. But throughout that process, all I could keep hearing is, it's okay to let people down. It's okay to prioritize yourself. It's okay to do what you think is right, even though it may not be agreed upon by everyone else, that you have to do the next right thing. And why I'm sharing that is because the number one reason why people are going to be doubting themselves or beating themselves up, or that I've been seeing why people are beating themselves up, is they have black and white thinking. And what I mean by that is it's all or nothing. It's one way or the other. In this context, it's like, man, everyone's going to hate me or everyone's going to like me. And there's going to be some middle ground of like, man, some people are going to love me. Some people are going to hate me. Some people are going to be like, man, I don't even know who this guy is. Is he like, what is this about? But at that moment, it's okay to have both. Like, you can have things that coexist. You can have people that enjoy you. You can have people that hate you at the same continuum. And it doesn't mean that one is more right than the other. And what I always hear is like, man, Phil, I'm not getting as many questions right as I want to. Or, man, I got this question wrong, so I'm always going to get questions wrong. Or I don't know community well enough, so I'm always going to get this stuff wrong. So when you have black and white thinking, what you're pretty much doing is trying to predict the future and tell yourself, you know what, it's this way and it's never going to change. And why this is hard for people and why it creates doubt is because if you don't have an experience of being successful, or if you've only fed negativity, or if you've only fed this result of like, it's always going to be bad, when things happen for you that are positive, or when things are received in a positive manner, you may be wondering, well, why is that the case? And why that's the case is because not everything is always going to be in your control. Because black and white thinking is you trying to take control of a situation. So when people are always asking themselves, man, I got this one question wrong, or I got this practice exam wrong, so I'm going to get everything wrong. And you're always asking yourself, what else can go wrong? Because once you start having things not go how you want them to, you're always going to be looking around like, man, what else is outside of my control? However, what I would ask you to do is start thinking about, what can I gain from this? Like I said, one of the craziest things, it was like, you know what? I did the free study group on Saturday. Everything was great. I was operating, but then I was like, man, maybe you should go to the emergency room and get checked out. And then they admitted me and I was like, oh my goodness. So from one moment having a great time and empowering people and having an awesome opportunity to now having an opportunity where things are outside of my control and making sure that I prioritize myself over the situation. But in that moment, I wasn't like, what else can go wrong? It's what can I gain from this? Like, what is the lesson in this? Or what are some things that I'm not seeing yet, but I got to keep that faith? Like, what else can go right? So like, what are the things that I can take from this and make it right? Or what are the things that I can do in the future and be in a better position? And what I often see is like, man, I'm getting too many questions wrong, Phil, or man, I'm doing this one material and they're telling me to do this. It's not really working for me, but I'm going to keep driving it home. And why I'm telling you this is you need to start asking yourself, not what else can go wrong or what am I doing wrong? What can I gain from this? Or what am I doing right? Because if you get a question wrong, you're supposed to be learning from that or gaining from it, not just being like, all right, I'm perfect all the time. But when you're in that moment of black and white thinking, the way to push yourself outside of it is there is some fluidity or a gray area that I'm not looking at or not considering, because we can't see and analyze everything or know why things are happening. But all we can do is do what we can do in order to analyze and better understand what's going on within this situation. So if you find yourself doubting yourself because you're in that black and white thinking of like, it's always going to be this way, or I'm always going to fail, or nothing's ever going to work for me, or man, I'm never doing the right thing, or man, I'm always getting in between two answers, so I'm always going to be in between two answers. It's not a black or white situation. You're never 100% one way or the other. You're always going to have some fluidity, but if you're only noticing the side that you don't want to be on, but never recognizing like, man, there's some growth in this, there's some progress in this, there's a meaning behind this, there's a lesson and blessing within this situation, you're going to get stuck. And it's easy for people to get stuck when you're not where you want to be. You're always going to be like, yep, I'm just going to let things happen to me. Don't let things just happen to you. Respond in the way that you can, but only give the energy that you have. Because most times people are trying to demand too much out of themselves. I was talking to somebody that's like, man, Phil, I only got like maybe 30 minutes every single day to study, but I've been trying to study 2 hours. Where are you going to multiply an hour and a half from? You figure out how to get an additional hour and a half in the day and have 25.5 hours. Tell me. I would love to figure that out, but it doesn't exist. So don't demand things out of yourself that aren't possible, but know that you may let yourself down. You may let other people down, but just because you let someone down or let a situation go doesn't mean that it's the only situation. Doesn't mean that you're always going to be letting people down, but maybe the people that you're letting down weren't even supposed to be there in general. So making sure that if you're in that black and white thinking or in that black and white mentality of like, man, it's one way or the other, you never do that in social work. Social work is the muddiest and grayest area that you can possibly see because everybody is uniquely gifted and talented and everybody's unique and needs different things. And we're not just templating people and just throwing them into situations that I think are right. So if you're in that mode of like, man, I'm doubting myself because I'm always thinking this way. If you're thinking in extremes, you got to be twisting yourself away from that and saying, you know what are the things that I can do? Because when I become less extreme, I can dream more because I have more freedom. So don't ask yourself what else can go wrong. Ask yourself what can go right. But what is the lesson? What can I gain from this? Because when you look at the word again, separate it out, it spells a gain. I gained something from having to do it again. It may not be what I felt like, not be what I wanted to look like, but you have to be willing to do with that next right thing. So if you're in that black and white thinking of structural of like, man, I'm always thinking about this way or always looking for these answers, ask yourself, what am I doing? Why am I doing that? And where did it come from? Because black and white thinking can create doubt all the time. And what I mean by that is you may have an answer that you want to go with, but you were like, well, they say to do this, or they say to do that, or I would never do this, so I need to go with what 100% I think in my role versus what I need to be doing for this client in front of me. So don't get in that mode of like, man, it's always going to be wrong for me. It's never going to happen. It's always been this way. It's going to continue being that way if you continue doing the same exact things and having the same exact lens of what, regardless of what I do, it's never going to work out. Because you're right. If you continue doing the same things, you're going to get the same result. But if you continue to look for different ways and look for different lenses to look through situations from, you're going to be in a better situation. Because at the end of the day, you aren't done yet. The mission isn't over. Your life isn't over. The situation isn't done yet. So you have to keep going and keep giving it an opportunity to keep going further. So the first reason why people typically doubt themselves is have that black and white thinking. I'm never going to pass the test. It's been X amount of times since I've taken the test. I've been out of field X amount of times. I've been out of school X amount of times. I've been not getting as many questions right. I'm never going to be able to understand this. But if you have the lens of like, I'm not where I want to be right now, but it doesn't mean that I can't get there in the future. I've been outside of this situation, but what have I gained since then? What have I gained since being out of school? What have I gained since taking the exam the first time, the second time, third time, fourth, fifth, whatever that looks like? What have I gained? Or what have I lost? Because sometimes you need to lose something and it's actually a gain. Because if you have too many thought processes or too many strategies and techniques, it's maybe bogging you down. So if you're losing those things and shedding them away, cut ties with the lies you've been living in, you're going to be in a better situation. So if you're in that black and white thinking, the way you break out of it is asking yourself, is this actually the situation that I'm in? Or is it what I think this situation is? Or if what can always go wrong? Shift it around and say, what could go right? What are some things that I'm not seeing that are actual lessons? What are things that I'm not seeing that are actual blessings for me at this given moment? Because if you're in that mode of like, yep, failed the test, always going to be a failure, or man, I never was good at taking tests, or man, I was never good at being able to retain information, or man, I'm not where I want to be, or everyone's always in front of me, or everyone's always this way, you're right. That's what the situation looks like right now, but you're too close to yourself to recognize the lessons and blessings, because somebody may be looking at you and saying, man, I wish I could be them. But you're looking at somebody that's further along and that's like, man, I wish I could be that person. But you're not tracking the progress that you've made in the meantime. Because in order to continue going further, you have to recognize where you've come. Because if you're like, man, I'm in the same position that I've always been, it's like, did you sit in the same spot for X amount of time and didn't talk to anyone new, haven't read any books, haven't listened to any videos, haven't done anything different? And if that's the case, I'm not mad at you. But then you could say you've not gone anywhere. But if you've talked to people, done different things, been building yourself up, you're a different person whether you notice it or not. And people will notice it more in you than you'll notice it in yourself. That's like when you start making changes in your life, you're like, yep, not making a lot of progress. And then you see somebody and they're like, man, you're doing a lot better in this, or man, you look a lot different, or man, you're talking or constructing yourself a little bit different. And you don't realize it because you're too close. And the second reason why people have been doubting themselves recently is future telling or fortune telling. And what I'm saying is, they're like, you know what? I need to study X amount of time, or my exam's going to look like this, or I need to know these materials, or I need to know this, I need to know that, or and they're starting to fortune tell years and months and days ahead of themselves when they need to be embraced in the moment. And you tell your clients this all the time. Stay present, be mindful, do the next right thing. Don't get too far ahead of yourself. But when it comes to us, we're like, you know what? I got to protect myself, because if you're future telling or fortune telling and saying, you know what, give me that crystal ball so I can see exactly what's going to happen in the future, what you're trying to do is protect yourself from a situation that you don't have control over, because it's what you've always done. Because if you're somebody that's doubting yourself because you're like, you know what, things never work out for me, or things are going too well for me, or you know what, I got to always be prepared for every situation, it's not always going to be that way, which then leads into that black and white thinking. There are different situations and opportunities every single day. And don't just let anything tell you what to do. Don't just let one thought, one situation, one person, anything take you outside of what you know to be true. So if you're trying to tell the future of like, yep, I'm probably going to get this wrong, or yep, I'm probably doing terrible, or man, I'm probably going to fail the exam, or man, this is going to happen to me, or all these different things. In the past, those things may have worked, but again, you're not in danger. So don't future tell to protect yourself, because there's nothing that's dangerous to you. The exam's not going to come out and be like, someone's not going to come and yell at you in the test. Someone's not going to flip a table over on you during the test. But you're feeling like, man, people are doubting me. People are judging me. What are people going to think about me? Man, what's this boss saying? Or man, what's this program saying? Or what are all these different things? But no one's saying half the stuff that you think that they're saying. You're internalizing it. And you would rather say the negative things to yourself than to embrace that sometimes people aren't just going to like who you are. Some people aren't just going to like what you have to do. Some people may want to push and pull you into different areas, but if you know you don't fit in those spaces and places, cut ties with it. Because not every space and place is where you actually need to be. Like I said, you're not in danger. Your old strategies and techniques may have worked for you, but they're not helpful any longer. Just because you did it X amount of times before doesn't mean every situation is the same. It's like when you're working with someone that's been through a traumatic event. The way that we break that cycle is to give them an alternative reality, or different ways and skills and strategies and techniques to adapt and overcome and cope with the actual situation. We can't take them outside of the traumatic situation, but what we can do is make them feel more comfortable and react in a different way. So if you're like, man, this test is beating me up, or man, I'm worried about my coworker saying, or man, I'm worried about this person saying, those people probably aren't saying half of the doggone stuff that you think that they're saying. Because at the end of the day, if you feel like people are looking at you and prodding at you and doing all these things, they may be, but you're probably more harsh on yourself than anyone is. And why that comes about is if you come from a situation where people have always gone for your head, or if you come from a situation where you always felt like your back was against the wall, or you were never good, or the smartest person, or the best equipped person, what you've done is felt like you've always had to become and do more than everyone else around you, and you always would say negative comments about yourself, so nobody could say anything negative about you. So if you're in that mode of like, man, I need to write a diss track about myself so no one else can say it to me, nobody buys diss tracks and CDs anymore. Don't even write it. No, I'm kidding. But for real, don't do something about yourself or for yourself that you wouldn't do for someone else. Because you wouldn't be writing diss tracks about your friend. You wouldn't be writing diss tracks about your partner. You wouldn't be writing diss tracks about your children or whoever that is for you. So start treating yourself like you would somebody you care about. So if you're feeling like, man, I got to protect myself from something that maybe happened, you're not wearing a winter coat in the summer. You ain't wearing a bathing suit in the winter. Don't prepare for every situation because those situations may not occur. So be present and be mindful and be ready, but don't just be like, you know what? I got to be just in case. You don't have to be just in case. What you need to do is encase yourself in that positivity and that motivation and that opportunity to say, you know what? I've been preparing myself and doing the next right thing, so I'm not going to let anything get inside of my mind or take me outside of what I know to be true. And I was talking to somebody just the other week that's like, man, Phil, what if I fail by 1 point? Or man, Phil, what if I fail this exam? Or man, what is it going to look like for me if I don't do this? And as I was talking to the person, they're like, man, but I come from a situation where I've always had to overcome. I come from a situation where I'm the first person in my family to get into college and to get a master's degree and do all these things. And I was like, okay, I feel you. And they're like, what do you mean? I come from the same situation. I'm the only person in my family that has a degree. I'm the only person in my family that has a master's degree. I'm the only person in my family that's operating in a job that has a salary. And again, it's a lot of pressure to come from an environment where, again, most people don't get out of it and then to feel like, man, I need to keep going for them. But at the end of the day, most people that you're striving and trying to keep going towards are happy where you're at right now. And that person was like, what do you mean? You're the only person that's writing a diss track. You're the only person that's trying to stop negative things from happening, but nobody's saying anything negative about you. You're trying to right the wrongs of the past when nobody's remembering the stuff that they've said to you. And why that's the case is because we always want to make sure that people like us. We always want to make sure that we're being accepted by people, but you don't need to be accepted by everybody. You don't need to right the wrongs of some things. Some situations are never going to be equal, but what you need to do is take care of yourself and make sure that you're equating everything that you do to a meaning and a purpose, and don't have resent, don't have anger, don't have frustration, because you have to make sure that you sustain yourself regardless of what people are saying in your life. Well, what if you fail? What if you fail a second time? Man, what if you fail a third? Or man, what about that job? Or what about this? What about that? And all you have to say is, I appreciate you caring about me, but I care about my situation more than you care about it, and I'm doing the best that I can. That's all I can demand on myself. That's all I can do, and I can't go back. I don't have the DeLorean. I don't have a time machine. I can't do things differently, but all I can do is things right now. So if you're trying to tell the future and trying to protect yourself and right the wrongs of your past, you need to cut those things away. You need to cut ties with the lies you've been living in and let it go. Let those things go so you can go to spaces and places and levels that you know that you need to be on. But if you tell yourself, I'm never going to get past that point, or man, I'm always going to have to do these things, or everything's always going to be this way, again, don't feel like you got to protect yourself. You're not in danger. It may feel like you're in danger, but the reason for why you feel like it's in danger is because you've been in dangerous situations, but you're not in those anymore. You don't have people that are yelling at you. You don't have the teachers being like, man, you sure you know this? Or, I mean, you don't have all those negative influences, and you may. But if you do, separate yourself. Separate yourself from those situations, because positive thoughts, positive vibes, and positive environment equals positive results. Don't let the environment make you crumble. Don't make the environment take you outside of what you know to be true. And it happens to a lot of people where they're like, man, people don't believe in my dream. Man, people don't think I'm doing the right things. But like I said, from this experience that I had, I was like, man, not everyone's going to like you, Phil. Not everybody's going to say good things about you, Phil. Not everyone's going to believe that what you say. And that's okay. Because before I was like, man, everyone's got to like me. And everyone's good. But it's like, man, cut that. Cut that. It's never been that way. Not everyone's ever been rapping and rocking with you. Some people are like, man, you're too loud. You talk too fast. You do all these different things. And what I have to remind myself, regardless of where I go, is I can be me, because that's all I can be. And if people don't want that, people can't rap with that, people don't rock with that, that's okay. Because I would rather be authentically me and not be the most popular, but authentically me and rap and rock with the people that want to become their best possible version of themselves. So again, don't future tell like, man, what if? Don't say what if. What happens when? What will I do when? Don't say what if. What happens when? What will I do when? And let it go. So you're prepared for it, but you're not always preparing for it to occur. You're prepared, but you're not preparing. Because preparing is a perpetual process. When you're prepared, you let the show fly. You say, I'm doing the best that I can. So don't let a dangerous situation you've experienced in the past, or don't let a thought process that you had in the past let you get into that space, because you need to continue looking forward. You are supposed to be doing what is to come after you and not what you're always going to be looking at. You need to remind yourself that you've been through things, but those things aren't going to define who you are all the time. They may be a part of you, but they're not all of you. They may be a part of your story, but they're not all of your story. They may be something that occurred, but you don't always have to be on defense. You don't always have to feel like you're on edge. Because if you do, you've let the opinion of one person or the opinion of few dictate your actions for many. And don't let one thought, one situation, one person, one practice exam, or anything take you outside of what you know to be true. And I'm not trying to minimize or invalidate what you've been through, but what I'm saying is you can't control what you go through, but you can control how you react and how much ownership that it takes over your life. And the third reason why people typically are doubting themselves is focusing only on their thoughts and how they feel. And again, CBT, one of the most widely known modalities, cognitive behavioral therapy, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Thoughts, feelings, behaviors, right? Triangle, boom, thoughts, feelings, behaviors. And again, when we're thinking about that, we're not really thinking about the behavioral side of it. So people will tell me all the time, man, Phil, I used to be anxious. I used to be all over, and I started to control my thoughts. And I'm like, cool. So what do you do in relation to your thoughts? And they're like, well, what do you mean? I combat the thoughts, but they come back, but I combat the thoughts and they come back. And it's like, okay, well, you're always focusing on the thoughts. So why not focus on the other area that's in your control, which is your behavior? You can't stop yourself from feeling one way, because again, you can feel confident and anxious at the same time. You can feel happy and sad at the same exact time. But you can't change how you feel. Somebody marches in the door right now and is like, I'm about to take your life. I can't be like, all right, don't be afraid. Don't be anxious. Don't do all these things. My body's going to be like, boom, I'm going to do whatever I do. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. I'm going to be like, all right, coming at you like the boy from 300. I'm going to jump out the window. I'm going to sit here and be like, I don't know what to do. Or fawn being like, man, what do you need? Or all these different things. And why I'm sharing that is you have to focus on your behavior. Because a lot of times what happens is people are like, this is what I'm going to do when I have these thoughts, or this is what's going to happen when these thoughts come in. But if you never prepare for what your behavior is going to be, you're never going to execute, because the behavior is the only thing that you can do that's going to help you propel forward. And that's not saying that you shouldn't entertain your thoughts, because way too many times people are like, man, I can't stop having these anxious thoughts, or I can't stop doubting myself, or I can't stop beating myself up. And it's like, okay, of course you're not. Why? Because you have automatic thoughts. You can't stop your thoughts. Like if I'm having thoughts right now, I can't stop them from coming. But what I can do is when they come, entertain them, acknowledge them, let them sit. But then my behavior, what I'm doing afterwards, is going to dictate and determine whether I'm progressing or not. Am I going to express them outward? Am I going to shout? Am I going to do all these things? So you shouldn't be asking yourself, when am I going to stop having these thoughts? Or when will my thoughts not come? It's, what will I do when my thoughts come? What will I need to do? And you need to be practicing what you need to be doing outside of the exam, so that way when you get inside of the exam, you're prepared. And you're like, Phil, you just told me not to fortune tell or future tell. And you're correct. But there's a difference between, all right, here's my tool belt, and here's the strategies and techniques that I can do, and here are some things that are not possible that actually happen and are just tapping my energy away. So what that can look like is, man, I'm going to fail this exam, or man, no one's going to watch this video, or man, no one's going to rap and rock me, and they don't like me, or all these different things. I can't stop those thoughts from happening, but what I can do is entertain them and say, okay, some people will hate me. I will fail at different things. I'm not going to be doing everything perfect all the time. And again, you're like, Phil, you just did a great job kind of working with those maladaptive thoughts. And you're correct. However, the behavior that I'm doing is executing whether I feel like it or not. You need to execute over your emotions, because your emotions are going to just take you through the motions, and your thoughts are going to make you do and believe things that may not actually be real, but your behaviors are the only thing that people can witness and the only things that are going to solidify who you are. That's why I always say it's not what you do that makes you who you are. It's who you are while doing it. So it's the behaviors that you do that are going to determine where you go. And because your thoughts can flow and do whatever they want, but the only way that you're actually going to grow is by executing and doing things intentionally and deliberately over and over and over and over. It's not enough to push my thoughts back. It's I need to push my thoughts back, but I need to throw myself forward and do the behaviors that I know that I need to be doing. I need to go into a situation, whether I'm afraid or not, and execute. Because when you do a situation that you're uncomfortable with, or you do a situation that you don't think that you can do, but then you do it, you surprise yourself and say, oh my goodness, I didn't even think this was possible for me. So you need to ask yourself, not will my thoughts come, but how will I react, or what will I do? What will I do when those thoughts occur? I need to focus on the behaviors, not just the thoughts, not just my feelings. Because way too many times people are letting their feelings drive where they're at. Like, man, I'm feeling anxious, or man, I'm super worried, or I'm afraid I'm going to fail, and all these different things. It's like, cool, you can feel that way, but what are you going to do about it? Are you just going to sit there and just let them ruminate? Or are you going to show up and believe that you can get the next right thing that you want? Because again, if you show up, you're going to glow up. But if you show, you're going to grow in some way. Because the only way to grow is you have to grow through things, not just go through them. Don't just mindlessly do like, all right, I'm just going to go on the test because it's what they told me to do. I don't care who they is. I need you to put your name on it, because whatever you commit your name to and whatever you believe, you got to be willing to die for it. You got to be willing to do everything that you can. You got to show yourself it's not what I do that makes me who I am. It's who I am while doing it. What are the driving forces and factors behind the behaviors that I'm doing? Because if I'm just going through the motions, it doesn't matter. But if I'm actually believing that what I'm doing is mindful, and if I'm believing that what I'm doing is going to pay off, if I'm believing that what I'm doing is worth it, what I'm doing is actually helping me see the things that I want to see, whether it's in the timeline that I want to see them in or not, is irrelevant. I must see some results at some capacity. And the next reason why people doubt themselves is believing that there's a secret code to taking the doggone exam. And I hear it all the time. Man, Phil, this person says, only read the last sentence. Man, Phil, this person says, I need to do the elimination process. Man, this person says, I need to do this other method. Man, this person says that I can automatically rule out 2 answers and I should be able to dance for the other 2 answers. Or man, this one says to only focus on, well, like the first sentence, the second, all these different things. Or man, only read half the answers. I promise you, if there was a secret code, I would give it to you. And you would hear people say in the groups that I have, man, Phil, give you the secret code. No one says that because it doesn't exist. There is no secret code. I don't care what somebody says. And again, I may get some hate for this, but first, next, best, most, should all mean the same thing. First, how do we respond? Next, how do we respond? Best, how do we respond? Most, how do we respond? Feelings, validate, CPS, APS, right to self-determination, safety, suicide, homicide. All of those things could be the possible answer, but it doesn't guarantee it. And if you're going to the exam looking for a guarantee or a secret code, don't take the snake oil because it doesn't exist. Don't drink honey before the exam and think it's going to help you pass the doggone exam. Don't just read the last sentence. Don't just look at first, next, best, most, should. Don't just look at feelings, gather information, and all these different things. Don't just do what people tell you to do. Execute. Because if a process isn't working outside of the system that they taught you in, it's missing external validity. So don't just do what people tell you to do. Do what you think is right. Because I get so sick and tired where the people are like, man, first, next, best, most, or man, look for the secret code, or I got to find the one detail on the question. There's not a single detail in the question. When you're working with a real client, you're not looking for the one presenting issue. No, they have an entire magnitude of things that they want to focus on. So don't go in this doggone exam expecting to have a secret code or a backpack full of answers where you're like, all right, I'm totally ready for the exam. I've been preparing the best way. And then you walk in and it's like, because you didn't prepare in the way that you needed to, because everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So don't get punched and feel like you need to stay on the ground. Make sure that you're staying in the doggone question. You're reading every detail, every word. Any length of time, hop on top of it. Who's your client? Where's everything at? Don't just feel like you just have to go mumbo jumbo and strip yourself of what you know to be true. So don't rescue somebody. Don't have a cape on and be like, woo, I'm super person. But actually live and breathe the actual question. What would I do if this was a real situation? And I hear all the time, man, Phil, they tell me never to do what I would do in real practice. Okay, so the ASWB and the NASW are setting us up for failure because they don't want competent social workers in the field. I'm done. No, they don't. What they want you to do is be able to think critically and no longer black and white thinking. And universities do it all the time. This is the only way that you need to look at this information. It's not true. Because once you start seeing real clients, you start realizing, man, schizophrenia, bipolar 1 or bipolar 2 disorder, or man, borderline personality disorder, narcissistic, antisocial, paranoid, avoidant, or man, major depressive disorder, persistent, or man, this medication is used for this, or man, it's not all a utopian situation. So don't go in this exam being like, you know what? ASWB is out to get me. Man, the NSW is out to get me. So I can't do what I want to do. I'm going to go with what they say, because people work with me all the time and they're like, all right, Phil, I would go with this answer, but they say I should go with this one. Well, guess what answer's right? Your doggone answer, but you're too implanted in believing that you got to template and mask what you think and be like, all right, I'm going to put whatever I think they want me to do. No, I don't care what they want you to do. I want you to think critically. I want you to become the best social worker you can be, because once you get your license and you're on your own, guess what happens when an ethical situation comes up? You best need to know what you got on doing. Why? Because if you're in that field and you do an unethical situation and your client's savvy in the ethics and they call you out, guess what you just invested in? You invested in a license that's going to be stripped of you because you didn't actually prepare for war. You didn't prepare to be a social worker. You prepared to do what they told you to do. So let go of what has not worked for you. Because if you get your butt kicked or you keep doing all these robotic strategies and techniques and you get the same result, let go of them. It pains me every time that somebody's like, man, I've been doing this. I'm doing this book. I'm doing this other thing, but I don't feel prepared for the exam. Then why do it? If you're doing something and you're not feeling prepared for it, then why even do it? It's like, man, if I was drinking this tea and it wasn't hydrating me, then why would I drink it? There would be no purpose. So that's what I'm saying is I'm not mad at anybody, but there's not a secret code, I promise you. And people doubt themselves all the time because they're like, they say, I need to do this. Or, man, I need to look for that magic word. Or I need to be doing this. You need to do what's right for you. I promise you, treat yourself in a way that you need to be treated, but do not half read this question. Do not 75% read the question. Do not half read the answers. Don't just be like, you know what? I can get the answer right because I know the buzzword. Because what that does to you is you go in the exam not respecting the exam. You go in the exam feeling comfortable and confident, but a baby that poops itself feels comfortable until it gets cold. Don't get in the situation and feel so comfortable that once you get outside the exam, you start feeling cold because you're in a crappy situation, if you will. Do what you need to do. Go through the grunt work. Get through that conflictual moment in preparation. And that's why I always tell people, don't come into my sessions expecting to get them all right. You can hate me. You cannot like me. You can feel like what I'm telling you to do is not going to work. But every single person that's come in those sessions and every single person that's gotten their butt kicked of like, man, I got not as many questions right as I wanted to. They go in the exam ready for war of like, all right, Phil, you show me these difficult questions. I'm ready for it. They go in the exam. The exam is way easier than the questions I construct because I'm preparing you for a difficult situation outside of the exam because I don't want you to go in the exam having a difficult situation. So that's what I'm telling you. Don't just go with the secret code. Understand what you need to do. Break it down. Analyze it and say, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? But you have to let go of the stuff that's not working for you. Because it may be scary for you to let go of those things, but it's worth your own peace. Because if you're in chaos and you're in debate with yourself, you're putting yourself into situations where it's like, all right, I don't believe in this, but I'm going to do it anyway. That's not giving you peace. That's tearing you to pieces, and you're trying to put yourself back together without an instruction manual. So making sure that you believe no longer about a secret code. There's not. I can't tell you like, all right, this is the only thing that you need to do. Or, man, this is specifically what you need. What you need to do is break down, analyze, decipher, and understand what's in the question. Why am I going with this answer? Why am I not going with the other answers? So you can become the best possible version of yourself. Don't give your power away anymore. Don't just feel like you have to just give up and submit and say, you know what, I'm done. Because you have to still put in the effort. You still have to put in the honor. You still have to put yourself on the line and do the next right thing. Because a lot of times people try to sell you a secret code. People say, man, I got the one strategy you got. This is the acronym that you need to follow. This is the only thing that you need to focus on. But nobody can tell you exactly what you need to focus on because the only thing that dictates whether you pass or fail is the actual exam. Don't get in that mode. Please, I'm begging you. If you're at this point in the video, I'm begging you. Don't just give the power and control over to someone else. Think critically. Think more in depth. Stretch yourself. Because the only way to become more competent and more effective and more efficient in this field is to stretch yourself beyond what is actually created at this moment. Because if you're not thinking critically and only thinking on the surface, you're only going to be a surface level individual. You need to think in depth and say, what am I doing and why am I doing this? Don't just go through the motions, but have a purpose for why you're doing it. Understand if somebody's telling you something, is it something that's going to be helpful for you? Is it not going to be helpful? If it's not helpful, let it go. Just let it go. Way too many social workers I've talked to have been like, man, this person told me how to do this. Man, this person told me how to do that. Who's they? Are they paying for your test? Are they having accountability when you don't pass the test? Are they coming to try and help you? Probably not, because they're not thinking about you. They're not giving as much energy that you're giving to your effort. So you got to make sure that you have somebody that's matching your energy. You have somebody that's working with you and building you up and making sure you're building yourself up, because you're the only person that can go on the test. But if you have a backpack full of answers, let them go. Because if you go in with answers, you're going to find them on the exam, but you're not going to find the right answer. You're going to find the answer that you wanted to be there. And if somebody says, man, I know every answer to the exam, no, they don't, because they didn't write the exam. They don't know the exact exam you're about to get. So go in prepared, but don't continue preparing to see what you want to see. You have to have a clear vision. You have to have a clean slate. Every question's a new client, 170 new clients. Don't go in that mode where you're like, man, I don't know. If you don't know, look at the question, because the question is the recipe to your answer, but your answer should mesh back to the question. And the fifth reason why people have been doubting themselves is focusing too much on results, too much on the doggone results versus the process. And again, the results look sweet. Man, I'm doing that app. That app says I'm getting this. Man, the development is telling me I'm doing this. Or man, I'm getting the 80%, 70%, 90%. Or man, I'm not getting this many questions right. Don't focus on the result, because the result is not what you need to be doing, because practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. And if you're doing things and you're not getting the result that you want, get curious, not critical. Examine it. Identify it. Because you don't have to fit in with no one. You need to be in the right situation for you and understand, what is my process? How many times am I going to read the question? What am I saying to myself? Am I beating myself up? Am I going to highlight? Am I not highlighting? All those different things. Because if you're doing something, you must be learning something. Separate the word learn out. Take the L's away. We're not taking losses anymore. Earn something from every question or every situation that you're in, whether it feels right, whether it is right or not. Dig deep and say, why am I going through this? Because we don't go through things by mistake. We don't go through things by just mysteries. It may be a mystery to us, but it's not a mystery to what we need to be doing. So you got to make sure that you keep the faith. You got to make sure that you're learning versus masking what you know. Because way too many social workers have given up their thought process. Way too many social workers aren't thinking critical anymore because they've given up. You've given up too much to give up at this point. You've sacrificed too much. You want to do too many things in this amazing field because you're uniquely gifted and talented. So don't become someone else or let somebody else make you feel like you're not able to do this. So you don't need to become someone else. You need to continue doing the exact right thing for you, and not letting anything stop you. You may not get the result on the first time, second time, third time. You may not get every single question right, but that's okay, because that is just practice. Practice is going to give you the repetitions and experience that you need. Because in order to have experience, you must experience something at some capacity. So every exam is different and requires the same exact respect. So if you're like, man, I'm going to be half reading, or I'm going to be doing this, or man, I've already taken the exam before, so I know what to expect. You don't know what to expect on this exact exam. So stay focused, stay intentional and deliberate in making sure that what you're doing is leading you to where you want to go. Because way too many times people get burnt out. They get hardened. They get resistant and say, you know what, I'm just going through the motions because it's what they want me to do. Is that how you felt the first time? Is that how you felt when you entered into school? When you got accepted in your bachelor's program? When you got accepted in the master's program? When you walked across the stage and put your name on it? Is that what you were feeling like? Of like, yep, there's a guess this is what's supposed to happen to me? No. Show the pride that you have. Show the determination. Show the dedication. Show the sacrifice that you've made up to this point. And why I say that is because if you forget why you're doing what you're doing, you'll let it go. You'll let it go. Because it means nothing to you anymore. And that's what I'm telling you is if your heart's not in it, just be honest and be like, I'm good. I don't want to take this test anymore. I don't want to be a social worker. I don't want to be the person that could impact somebody else. I don't want to be that. opportunist person. I don't want to do these things anymore. And that's okay. I'm not mad at you. I'm not. I'm literally not. Because I'd rather have somebody that's passionate. I'd rather have somebody that's never letting results or situations let their feelings derive where they're going. Because your feelings are temporary. Your actions are permanent. So if you're doing things that are going to be making your situation worse, you got to be taking yourself out. And that's why I'm always telling people, if you do not take the risk of getting something wrong, or if you don't take the risk of failing something, you also don't take the risk of getting things right or things working out. Because again, things aren't extremes. It's not, man, I'm just not going to do it, so I'm not going to fail. No, you not doing it is failing. You not following through and not getting to that next right thing is you failing. You're essentially giving up before it even starts. You're like, you know what? Not going to show up to the test. I'm going to keep rescheduling my test because I don't want to fail. You fail every time you reschedule. Why? Because every time your time is the most expensive thing on the planet. You can't get it back. But you also can't get opportunity back. Because once you doubt yourself once, once you beat yourself up once, you can't go back and start getting confident again. So that's what I'm saying. What you do becomes a habit. If you beat up on yourself, you tell yourself what you're doing is never good enough and all those things, it becomes a habit. And again, it's easy. It's easy to get around people that are going to have confirmation bias for you. Man, this exam's stupid, or man, I'm never going to pass this exam, or I failed it too, or man, this is not something. It's like, reflect on that and say, I'm just in pain that I'm not where I want to be. And it doesn't mean that you can't get there, but if you give up on yourself or you start giving energy to the things that aren't going to give back to you, there's no purpose to it. There's no point. And that's why people are like, man, Phil, how come you're always trying to find positive things? Or man, how come you're always energizing things? And it's because I know what it feels like to be low. I know what it feels like to not have things work for me. Because I've been through stuff, but I don't think about that all the time. But what I think about is, what can I do in the future? What does this mean? Because again, everybody's going through something, but if you don't grow through it, you never get anything different. So that's what I'm saying is, I know what it feels like to fail. I know what it feels like to not feel good enough. I know what it feels like to not be where I want to be or not have control over something. But what my encouragement is get comfortable with that. Because life is going to take everything that it can from you. But if you don't respond in a way that's going to get a lesson and blessing from it, you're never going to get it. So that's what I mean is, don't wait for the ASWB. Don't wait for the NASW to rescue you. Yes, they're talking about changing the exam, but how long do you think it's going to take? Don't delay your future based on a possibility. Don't stop yourself from becoming the best possible version of yourself because of possibility. The only possibility you have right now is today. Base it on the facts that you have. You don't need a 3-answer choice, because everybody that I've talked to that's taken the exam, everyone's like, man, the exam's going to be 3-answer choices. People have told me that it's 5, 10, 15, 20 questions out of 170. So how are you about to give energy to something like it's a lifeline when it's not even the majority of it? So you got to stay focused. You got to stay locked and loaded. And again, don't just be like, man, I can eliminate the bad answer. Because the ASWB is not going to give you bad answers. And again, if you get a 3-answer choice question, they eliminated one of the bad answers anyway. So don't get in that mode of like, I need a rescue, I need a savior, I need the shortcut. You don't need a shortcut. You need to keep believing that what you're doing is right, that what you're doing is paying off. It will get there. You'll do the next right thing. Because it may not be what it feels like or what you want it to be like today, but it doesn't mean that it's never going to happen. And that's why I always tell people, don't let one thought, one situation, one person take you outside of what you know to be true. And that's what I'm saying is, when you keep the same energy and same focus, regardless of what's going on in your life, that's when you can drive and say, I'm okay with regardless of what happens today. Because today's the only thing I got. I can't go back and do things differently. I can't go forward and do things differently. Because today's the only opportunity that I got. That's what I'm telling you. If you're experiencing doubt, you're feeling shame, you're feeling guilt, be you. Be who you are. Embrace where you're at. Don't let one thought, one situation, one person, or anything take you outside of what you know to be true. And that's what I'm telling you is, that's the lesson I took out of is like, man, people aren't always going to like you. Man, people are going to think that you're conniving or a thief or bad or not doing the right thing for people. And it's like, I'm just doing the best that I can. I can't magically be like, all right, boo, I'm healed. But what I can do is be what I need to be and do what I need to do for the people that care, and for the people that are repping and rocking, and for the people that don't want to stay. That's all right. We've been there for the longest. We've been up against the wall of people not repping and rocking and doing all those things. But my encouragement to you is keep doing you, because the right people are going to see the right things, and you're going to make the right lessons and blessings for people. Because that's why I always tell people, don't get in every space and place, because you don't need to be in every space and place, because not every space and place can control and handle what you got. So become everything that you can. That's what I'm telling you. Pour everything that you got into it, because you never know when your day's done. You never know when your time is going to be over. So making sure that you do the next right thing for yourself. So if you doubt yourself, you're beating up on yourself, give yourself credit, give yourself grace to run the race to become the best possible version of yourself, because everybody at certain capacities are doubting themselves, beating themselves up. But it's the problem with that is once you become successful, or once you become achieving what you want, you then start pushing the goalpost further and further. But don't continue pushing the goalpost. Sit and understand and say, man, this is how far I come. This is what this means. This is why I've been doing this. Embrace why it's happening and where you want to go, but never forget why you're doing it. Never forget the reason. Never give less energy. Never give less to something that you care about and love. Because that's what I'm telling you is, if you truly love something, you'll do anything for it. You'll do whatever it takes to get it done. So don't lose the love for yourself. Don't lose the love for the people you care about. Don't lose the love for the profession. Don't lose the love for the work that you want to do. And keep giving yourself the grace and opportunity and energy that you give someone else. Because way too many people that are kind-hearted and gifted social workers, and they're giving too much energy to people that aren't giving it back to them, or they're not feeling like they're deserving of that energy. But you deserve everything that you get. And what I mean by that is, if somebody's saying that you're positive, or you're intelligent, you're accomplished, they ain't saying that as a negative lens or manipulative lens. They're recognizing things in you that you haven't seen in yourself yet, and you got to embrace it. You got to embrace it. You got to embrace yourself, and don't race against anyone else anymore. Give yourself credit. Don't have black and white thinking. Don't try to predict the future. Embrace the moment and get everything that you can from this. Don't just focus on your thoughts and feelings. Focus on your behaviors and actions and what you're doing every single day to get yourself to that next level. As well as, don't believe there's a shortcut or a secret code or a magic trick, because we're not magicians. We're not somebody that's just being like, man, I don't have to respect people, or I can assume, I can rescue, I can do these things. Don't do that. Don't do that. Be the social worker that you want to be on this test, but also don't focus on results. Focus on the process, because it's not always the results that's going to make you who you are. You got to go through the muddy reps. You got to go through the things that you don't think are right. Because if you don't risk getting it wrong, you aren't even risking to get it right either. Because if you're like, man, I'm playing it safe, you're not playing it safe, because inaction is still inaction. So you have to keep going further. You have to keep going farther. You have to keep doing everything that you can. But do yourself a favor. Don't do anything that you would regret. Don't do anything that you would resent. Don't do anything that you can say, man, what if? Because it's not what ifs anymore. It's when this happens. Get dreaming. Get focused and intentional and deliberate, and believe that what you are going to do is going to be further along than you thought. Because in order for you to achieve something, you must believe it. You have to believe that you're capable. You're uniquely gifted and talented. You have the skills and abilities. You have everything that's needed. You have all these things. It's just untapped inside of you, and you got to pull it outside of yourself. Because everybody is in a situation, but not everybody knows what they're capable of until their back's against the wall and they got to do the next right thing for themselves. So surprise yourself, but rise to the occasion. Rise up and be who you're supposed to be, for who you want to be, but for the people that came before you, people that are going to come after you, and for yourself, because you're worth it. You are uniquely gifted and talented, and do it. You can do this. You have to just keep doing the next right thing for yourself. So from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate every single one of you guys. Hopefully that helped at least one person, or that you're feeling better. And if you're this far in the video, man, I love you, man, because you're far along. And again, hopefully you're in the right position. And if you're doubting yourself, you're beating yourself up, keep doing the next right thing. And even if it doesn't feel right, even if you don't think it's right, your thoughts and feelings ain't going to take you anywhere. The behaviors are going to take you to spaces and places that you never thought you would get to. So get moving. Get doing the things that you know that you should be doing, that you're like, man, what are people going to think about me? It doesn't matter what somebody thinks about you. It matters what you think about yourself and what spaces and places you get into in order to empower yourself, but everyone that's come after you, and people that are going to be getting dividends from you after you get to that next right thing, and believe in you and see things in you that you don't see inside of yourself. From the bottom of my heart, appreciate every single one of you guys. You need anything, drop me a shout, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. Hope to see you in the individual tutoring, Sunday study groups, one-day course, or any capacity. And again, I appreciate every single one of you guys. I love you guys. Keep taking care of yourself. I'll keep taking care of myself and trying to recover as much as I possibly can. and I'm going to keep giving you as much energy as I can, as much as I possibly can, for as long as I can. Like I said, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate every single one of you guys. Take care, be safe, keep building yourself up, and if you're getting ready to go on the exam, kick it directly on the chest. Just let me know how it goes. I'm getting the heck out of here, guys. I'll see you in the next video, and peace out, guys.